Hello, my fellow nerds. It is Megan from Vigilante Vibes, and I'm here to give you my review of Fantastic Four First Steps and spoilers and all. If you want a non spoiler version of this video, just check out my YouTube because I also have that video right there waiting for you. But there will be spoilers from this point forward, so be careful. I I loved this movie. I really liked it. It was so much there. Where to start? I'll get started with the characters. Ben Grimm, that's played by Evan Bachrach. Oh, that was a perfect rendition of Ben Grimm. That is who I want as Ben Grimm. He wasn't mopey. He wasn't someone who was just hard on himself because of who he is. He was a very strong character. They played very well into his expertise in piloting. Um, and he had a perfect chemistry with every person on the team, with Johnny as they bickered back and forth like siblings, with Sue, who he sees as a sibling, not always in the comics. There was a point where he kind of had a thing for her, but it doesn't show in this movie. And also his best friendship with Reed Richards. It was just he that was just, they nailed it. That was perfect. Johnny Storm, I think I'm in love with him. I this is it. I have changed everything about myself now. I am in love with Johnny Storm. Joseph Quinn brings something very new to the character while also respecting who he was in the comics. It it was interesting. Johnny Storm wanting to prove himself throughout the movie, like, I'm good enough to be on the Fantastic Four. I'm smart enough. I can do this. I really liked that vulnerability. He was also very funny, always looking for action, and not an F boy. Like, that's always been my problem with Chris Evans' rendition of Johnny Storm. While I did always appreciate it, he leaned too heavily into being the F boy and not as heavily enough into showing that how smart he is, how talented he is, how good of a team member he is, uh, and also how good of a brother he is. I think that showed very well with Joseph Quinn, and he gave a lot of heart to Johnny Storm that has been in the comics and that I feel like has missed in a lot of comics. The person that stole the show for me was Sue Storm, Vanessa Kirby. She is Sue Storm. This casting is right up there with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Iman Vellani as Miss Marvel, Tom Hiddleston as Loki. It is right up there. She is amazing. She has every vibe you want from Sue Storm. She had it. The sexiness, how beautiful she is, what a beautiful soul she is, how much she just loves her family, how strong she is. And after this, I better never hear anyone say Sue Storm is not the strongest one on the Fantastic Four. I better not hear that at all. Because they prove it in the comics, then they proved it in the MCU. Amazing performance. Now, the one I'm still conflicted on. A lot of you know that I am not a fan of Reed Richards. I have never been. Mr. Fantastic is more like Mr. Villain to me. And if you disagree, that's cool. I don't really care. But Pedro is all things lovable. So it's a very hard place to be. He brings something very interesting to the character. Less of the narcissism and more of the in his head trying to figure out what to do for the betterment of his family, but less of the selfishness. He showed more of the caring side of Reed Richards rather than the dick side of him, I guess. I don't know. But it had me questioning halfway through, like, am I a Reed Richards fan? Did Pedro just change me? Just, I'm still working through it. I don't know. The next one, Galactus. If you're a comics fan, you're going to love what they do with Galactus. You're going to love how terrifying he is. You're going to love how menacing he is. If you're not a comics fan, you're going to love it because they do so well. They do, they bring it to life in a way that you can feel the daunting feeling of him when you read him in the comics. It's just, It was fantastic. I'm trying so hard not to use that word to describe it because I feel like it's a little overplayed at this point. But the next one, Shala Ball, played by Julia Gardner. Amazing scenes with her, incredible scenes with her. Very, very comic accurate that the Fantastic Four takes down Galactus with the help of the Silver Surfer. And they brought that aspect to life. And I think she absolutely nailed it. It was, don't say fantastic, it was incredible. It was incredibly well done. There was a lot of heart that she brought to the Silver Surfer that you don't really get to see with Shala Ball because there's so little of her in the comics. I know a lot of people wanted Norrin Rad, but I don't think we're going to see Shala Ball again. I think it's going to be Norrin Rad. So why would you want it to be Norrin Rad if we only see this Silver Surfer one time? Why would you want that wasted on Norrin Rad? I just thought that was always pretty obvious reasoning there, but whatever. So, about the movie. This is easily the most comic accurate movie Marvel has put out. Matt Shockman, the director, has put in so much work into creating something that is a comic book brought to life. You can tell that he is a genuine fan, and the people that worked on this movie are genuine fans of the comics of the Fantastic Four, ones that have gone. They've been around since the beginning of Marvel, and there's so much respect paid to their characters and their history. There was it was interesting how involved Franklin was in the movie because I always thought like this is too early to bring in Franklin. There's no way because I've always thought Marvel Studios isn't quite equipped to handle such an overpowered character. I still kind of think that, but they did a good job handling Franklin as a baby. And moving forward, I'm curious how they're going to handle him as I don't know what he'll be in Doomsday. Probably like 4. There is 2 post-credit scenes, and one does have to deal with Franklin, and we get to see Doctor Doom. We get to see him, and let me tell you, my theater was very hyped throughout this movie. There was clapping, there was cheering, but when it got to Doctor Doom, none of them knew who he was. None of them knew. It took them like a good solid 30 seconds to get it, and that was after a few of us were like, it's Doctor Doom. That's when they all finally like, oh my god. Whatever. Whatever. But it the the post credit scene it shows Sue Storm reading a book to Franklin, and then she leaves the room to grab another book, and she comes back, and Doctor Doom is standing there with Franklin. And that credit scene was actually directed by the Russo brothers. For those who don't know, Matt Shockman said that they were on set a lot to get to know the characters and the actors, and they did make that credit scene just as they made the post-credit scene in the Thunderbolts, or New Avengers. I don't know what we're supposed to call it. I'm gonna call it Thunderbolts. So, and this movie is supposed to lead directly into Doomsday, so that tells us that Franklin's going to be a very big focal point of Avengers Doomsday. Which, like, I don't know. I'm still nervous. I don't think they really know how to handle a big character like that. Not big character, but a very overpowered character. So there is negatives I found about this movie. For one, I don't think there's enough action scenes. I think Reed Richards uses his powers, like we get to see his powers used maybe like 3 times. It did an incredible job setting the tone of them, but I won't say it's the best Marvel movie, but I will say it's the best Fantastic Four movie by far. I really enjoyed it, even though there were some things I would have preferred to happen differently. But I think it nailed the tone of the Fantastic Four comics. It nailed the characteristics of these characters that make them who they are, who we've read and loved for so, so long. And it brought the Fantastic Four centric villains that really made it feel like a comic book brought to life. And that's what, at the end of it, that's how I feel about it overall, that it is a comic book brought to life. Overall, the Fantastic Four First Steps was a beautiful love letter to Jack Kirby. They even ended the movie with a quote from Jack Kirby that says, If you look at my characters, you'll find me. No matter what kind of character you create or assume, a little of yourself must remain there. And it's like a lot of you know, I don't cry at movies. I've mentioned it before. I just don't. I don't have that. I don't know what bone that is that you're born with. I was born without it. But at that point, I was like, I felt it. It was like, it was nice seeing Jack Kirby getting the recognition he deserves. That usually that love goes for Stan Lee. But Matt Shockman made very sure to include and pay so much respect to Jack Kirby. And I think that itself should be talked about. It was beautiful. I loved it. But The Fantastic Four First Steps was a movie made for comic book fans. I I do think those who didn't read the comics will have a more challenging time keeping up with the characters and the dynamics. But then again, I wouldn't know because I read the comics. So if you did have trouble keeping up and you didn't read the comics, let me know in the comments because I want to know. But I think it'll go over the heads a little bit of some people, but I also think that's okay. I hope that brings in more people to want to read the comics and learn about these characters and these dynamics and these stories. Like, I can't imagine going into that movie and seeing like the cover of the very first Fantastic Four comic, Fantastic Four #1, played out on screen and not realizing what it is. I really hope if you didn't read the comics, just check them out. There I think it would make you more excited for it. I My biggest thing about Marvel Studios is that they've never really done much work in involving the comics in their promotions or in their movies. Like, imagine if every Marvel movie at the end they said, you can read these stories in this comic, this comic, this comic. Like, I think that would be really cool because this is all this from the source material. Don't pretend it's not. Don't pretend like you're making this up on the spot. You have all the answers in the comic. Just, it's right there. But I will say in the Fantastic Four First Steps, they did up their game some when they had the history of the Fantastic Four, a 90-minute video on their YouTube channel, or when they made I think it was 4 Fantastic Four comics, they made those available to read for free. And Matt Shockman is a huge comic nerd, so, and he made that very, very clear with the movie. But yeah, I like what they did. I don't think it's the best Marvel movie but that's more preference wise. Um, I will say it's the best Fantastic Four movie. It just brought them to life in a way we've never seen before. And that all goes back to Matt Shockman and the cast, who clearly did their research, who clearly wanted to bring that comic element to the characters. I'm very appreciative of that. And I'm very happy because I was so nervous about Pedro Pascal's read. So nervous. Because I just wanted a read that I could hate. I can't hate him. I can't do it. But comic version of Reed, we will always have our beef. But MCU version, I love you. And I just want what's best for you. But yeah, I'd say like an 8.8 out of 10, maybe. That is subject to change if I see the movie again. And it also changes based on the day. So don't take that too seriously. But I want to know what you guys thought of the movie. So you have to go in the comments. You have to tell me what you thought. And then we can talk about it. But make sure you are liking and subscribing so you don't miss any more of this content. Because I try to put out as much as possible. Because I am loving everything we're getting this year. We are eating as nerds. We have Superman, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. We have Fantastic Four. We have Thunderbolts. We have Eyes of Wakanda, Ironheart. We have so much to be grateful for. So, like I said, like and subscribe, and have a marvelous day.